Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Bullfunk Studios. This is where it's all at. Look, today my question is, have you ever received programmed drums? You know, they can sound great sometimes, but sometimes they don't have much life. So today's episode, I want to talk about how to bring life out of programmed drums using compression or compressors. And today in particularly, I'm going to talk about outboard compressors, but you can still do that with plugins and whatnot, but we're going to focus on this. Stay tuned. All right, so guys, I've written this song called Whiskey. It was on my 2016 album called Dangerous Radio. It's a great song. Now at that time, I actually programmed the drums on this song, and they did sound great. I used BFD3 by FXpansion, which is a great drum program. But what I wanted to do today is bring more life to it. And I wanted to smash the drums because it's a really hard-hitting song. And I wanted to just have it breathe more. Now, what I'm going to show you today is if you ever just get a stereo stem of drums, so you don't have the kick, the snare, the overheads, or any room mics or any tom mics separate. They're all in one stereo stem file, right? And you got to deal with it. So what do? Now, there's many ways to do this. Usually for my technique, I would have multiple parallel compression going on that I feed the kick or the snare or the overheads or the toms or the room mics to and program in. But I'm gonna simplify it completely. Okay, now you got stereo drums. Stereo drums, you can't manipulate the kick, can't manipulate the snare, can't manipulate anything. It's all in there, right? Unless you use trigger to sample stuff in there, but that's a different topic. We're going to talk about smashing the crap out of drums, right? So I'm going to play you the drum track, and it sounds like so. So yeah, these are the programmed drums. I sat a long time programming them. It would have been great to have a live drummer who just actually played this stuff. And I'm going to assume that I got them as stereo drums, and that's what I have at this moment. So as you can see over here, this is my stereo stem. They were programmed mini drums. I just bounced them out to wave. All right, how to give them more life? You heard how they sound. They sound not too bad, but let's make them sound a lot better. All right, let's switch over to the rack. All right, so what do I have in this rack? Well, what I'm going to use today for the drums, because everybody likes the SSL G-Comp type compressor, and I have the TK Audio, which is a fantastic compressor. I usually use this on my stereo bus, but today we're going to experiment with it. It's the BC1 THD version. And what I love about this, it has a blend knob, so I can do a parallel thing going through it. But right now, I'm going to put it into full mode. And it has a couple of high passes. So I got 80, 220 if you push both buttons in, and 150, so I could choose both of them. Or all three of them, actually. And the THD, it does something with saturation. It's very minimal. And grab, it does something as well with the grab, but I'll refrain from using these. It goes from 1.5, 2.1 to 4.1, 4 to 1, sorry, and 10 to 1 ratio. The interesting thing about this is the attack on milliseconds, it goes up to 120. So super slow attack. But since we're gonna smash the drums, I'm gonna use a faster, medium fast attack and a really fast release somehow to get that smashing sound. So let's turn this fucker on and see what happens. All right, this is the signal of the drums programmed without the compressor in. As you can hear. Now I'm gonna push the compressor in. All right, so at this moment, I'm only getting very minimal gain reduction, but what I wanna do is smash it, right? And I'm on regular attack milliseconds, on slow attack at this moment. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the ratio up from 1.5 to 1 to 4.1 and threshold the crap out of it. Give it a lot of gain reduction with a bit of makeup gain. Can you hear that pump that's happening? You get that really nice pump, which is a really pleasing sound. So for this song, I kind of want to go with this pump and exaggerate it, right? So this is without it. And here goes again. So this is just the dry signal, but now with the compressor. Can you hear that pump? Isn't that good? Now there's one thing, obviously, because I don't have the high pass engaged, so it's also compressing the low end, which is right now anything below 220. But what I'm gonna do now, just to get more of a high pass so it won't compress the kick example, is I'm gonna high pass it at 80, so it won't affect that. Right? Now you can hear more of the kick without it. Do you hear how it's compressing the kick with the overall drums? Now I don't want it to compress the kick, so I'm going to push in 80. That kick comes back on again. So it's kind of a cool sound. Now I'm going to slower the attack to get more pump out of it. So let's go to 1 millisecond. Now listen to that. It almost sounds like that's before and after. Now that almost sounds like you got a stereo set of mics, drum room mics far away, and you got them smashed going through a compressor. So this is also another way, if you don't have any room mics, example, you can print through the compressor. Well, this is one of my ways of doing it. There's many ways to do it, by the way, but this is one way to do it. So you can have a separate track, print it through really smashed drums, so you can blend those room mics, example, in with the dry signal of the drums or the drums themselves. You can do it that way if you want. But also I want to smash it, so that's another way. So if you want to hear it again, hear it with the room mics. Let's call it room mics. With the room mics, I'm going to take off the high pass, so it'll compress the kick as well. Right, here we go. This is, imagine we're creating room mics for drums. You hear that? Right, without it. With it. Isn't that cool? That's pretty cool, right? So now imagine that we got room mics as well going on. So it gives you that depth, almost depth of field, if you can use your imagination with it. And you can blend it in with the original signal of the drums. So you create that. Or we can smash the crowd out of the drums, just have a smashing great sound out of it. Remember, I'm just using one compressor on this. Now bear in mind, when we're smashing the drums, we need to balance that out afterwards with EQ. So let's have a look at this, all right? So I'm gonna be smashing the drums. I'm gonna assume I just want this drum sound from my stereo original signal with the high pass in, because I want the kick to come in more, but I like the way the snare is reacting and the cymbals are just crushing with it. Obviously I'm gonna manipulate a bit of the EQ, because I can hear there's a bit of that boxy sound at 300, and I probably need to top up the top end a bit, maybe around 8K or something like that. So I'm gonna assume that I just want a smashed sound. So let's hear it now with smashed sound. And then I'm gonna jump into my Bettermaker equalizer. The lovely part about this equalizer, it's a mastering equalizer. It's 2-in-1. So if you're in the box, you can use two different EQs. You can use a Pultec EQ and a parametric EQ, maybe a Fab Filter Pro Q3 with it, or something that has more color like a 1073 or a MAG, or whatever suits your fancy, something with parametrics, something that has, you can have a little bit of a narrow Q just to take off, you know, the boxiness or any muddiness, and something with a shelf to push up the 8K. So I'm gonna use the Bettermaker. It's all gonna be flat after the compressor. All right, let's hear it. So the drums are smashing, they sound great. I'm gonna engage All right. Now I can hear already there's something going on 300. So I'm gonna use this parametric EQ. Push it up over there. Push the Q up a little bit more. Bring it to about 300. There's that box in it. Around there, maybe I'll push out the Q a bit more. And I'll bring this down. I'll pull this a bit down more. See that automatically? Yeah. Do you hear how automatically that cleans it up? So again, without it, and now with it. Kind of gives it that space, doesn't it? Right? So now what I want to do is give it more of top end. So I'm going to go to the Pultec part of it, because the Pultec has a really nice sound in there. So I'm going to boost about, let's go for 10K first. And I'll have a broad shelf going on. Right, let's see how it sounds. All right, without the EQ. Gives it a nice little sound. But what I can do as well here, to even get it sounding better, do the whole broad thing. Instead of boosting that much, I'm gonna boost a bit. About maybe, let's say, a little bit more there. And I'm gonna go into the parametric and push up to about 8K, I would say maybe. 8K on a not completely wide shelf. Give it more of that bite. Maybe it's a bit too much. Right? Without the EQ. With the EQ. Let's give it a bit more bottom end. Now that's the beautiful thing about the Pultec style EQ. I got a pair of Pultecs one here, but because it's 2-in-1, it's a lot easier to work with. So I can probably, let's go to 60 hertz on the Pultec. So what? Boost it up. There we go. Maybe a bit too much. Without it. All right, how's that sound to you? Isn't that cool? So this is the dry signal without. Still sounds great. I want it to sound, I don't know, more. And here's with it. 1. And this is with it. Without the EQ, without the EQ, without the compressor, with the compressor and the EQ. Right. All right, now it's time to print it. So how do we print it back into our system? Because I'm going analog here, and I'm going through my analog summing into this comp and to the EQ. So I got to print it back in there. Print the signal going out from the compressor and the EQ back into Logic, which I'm using at this moment. So the way it's going out, as you can see over here, my channel's highlighted. That's the program drums. And that's going out of my Apollo, physical output of the Apollo, into my analog summing, which is the high-end summing mixer, and back out of this analog summing mixer, back into the AD converter of the Apollo. All right, and the way we do this is the output of my drums is going through my patch bay, which I have called as effects, because that's what kind of I'm using it as, the output of the effects over there. So right now, this is the output of my effects, which is right here. Let's call this effects out, right? So that's my output signal, which is going on this channel. And that I need to now monitor it, how it goes back into the box. So the way I do this is on my main stereo output, I have an I/O plugin. And on the I/O plugin, my input, nothing's going out of the output because I don't need anything there. I just need whatever's coming back into the input. So I have this set at channels 11 and 12, which is my summing back input, summing return input. And at the same time, I have a channel to print, which is, I'm going to call this print effects, which is right here. All right, this is obviously just a sample. So as you can see, I have it in record enabled mode, faders all the way down, and I'm getting signal of the drums in here. So at this moment, I am ready to record. All right, so I'm going to start recording. Now it's tracking. As you can see, the signal's going through. It's the red one over here. It's tracking that section. We'll wait for that to finish and we'll hear it back. And then maybe at this time, what we will do is balance them out together if they need be, you know? Or if they don't, I might just use the smashed drums with the song. Might sound even better. I don't know. Let's see, but it's always good to experiment and it's always good to learn. But the biggest importance of this is knowing your gear and knowing how they sound. So this is part of the thing, like using an SSL compressor or type compressor and see how does it react to overall drums, or how does it react to just the kick or the snare or whatnot, or a different kind of compressor. So now we got the recorded signal back, okay? And what I'm gonna do is record, enable that, unsolo this. Actually, I'm just gonna solo that. Now I have to route everything back out, so we're good to go over here. So that's my printed signal at this moment. I'll move the record enable from here so you can see the metering. It's pretty cool. So let's do it before and after again. Right, and of course, to do that, I need to send the original signal to the stereo output, which is right there. Okay. That's the original signal. Bounce. And that's the printed signal. See if we blend them in together, what happens. Not nice? That's pretty cool, don't you think? Okay, I'm gonna mute like one of them. I'm gonna mute the original signal without the printed and see how it sounds. So this is muted now, original signal. And that's blended with it. Let's blend it a bit more. Let's put the bass in. Not the original drums. With the original drum. I actually like it just printed and smashed for this particular song. It might not work for all other songs, but yeah, this is how it kind of works. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode on smashing drums. As I mentioned before, there's many ways to skin a cat or do this thing, right? So if you got a pair of stereo drums, programmed drums that you have no control over, but you want to bring more life to, you can, smash them through a compressor, parallel them to another compressor or multiple compression, or if you want more control over the kick or the snare, there's ways to do that, even though you have stereo drums where you can program samples or create samples for the kicks and snares, which can be a bit tricky, but there's many ways to do that. Or you can just take the stereo stem the way it is and do what you want. I wanted more of the smash drum sound for this particular song because it's a heavy rock song, and I kind of like that breathing part of it. Or you can also smash because I put the high pass on there, the kick came through a lot more and more clear. But if I didn't put the high pass on the compressor, which means compressing the low end with it, you can also create that room sound. So if you notice by ear, like it sounded a bit further away, so it gives it more of that depth. So that's how it works. And obviously EQ to taste after it. So I put a bit of the EQ on there, and that was it. So again, most importantly, practice your plugins, practice your outboard gear, know how they sound, know how they react to different sources. Doesn't mean it's just for drums, it could be for anything you want. It's all up to your imagination and creativity within a mix, or even within tracking or creating sounds, Just whatever you hear in your head and you want to get to that sound, the best way to do that is to practice your plugins. Just like practicing guitar with your scales and stuff like that. To play a solo live on stage, you need to know your scales, you need to know your vocabulary or your theory or whatnot, or practice your ass off. So when you play on stage, it's a natural thing for you to do, and you just play without thinking about it. Same thing with plugs and outboard. They're all like little effects that you need to use to create that sound. The more you know it, the easier and faster you get at creating your own sounds or mixing a song with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, and all that good stuff. And yeah, peace, love, happy mixing, happy producing, happy recording, happy writing music. Take it easy.